All right, this week's episode of Magnify, we're joined by Ed Carey, the CEO and founder of Audience Town. Welcome, Ed.
Thanks, pal. Cool to be here.
I always let the guests introduce themselves. If you want to give a little 30-second spiel about who you are, what you're doing, we'll get into it.
Hey, sure. That's always a fun place to start. Ed Carey, founder, CEO of Audience Town. Live here in Southern Florida, moved from New Jersey. So part of one of those, sort of COVID migrations. And it was fascinating to actually move. It was very meta to try to understand why people move and then to actually move. So that's always a fun topic. And have been running Audience Town into our 6th year now. So started the company before COVID, have been building a platform for real estate, through the COVID era, and made it out on the other side. And here we are. And needless to say, the world just keeps changing at a rapid pace. But live down here with my family and travel around the country to visit clients and colleagues. We're a distributed company, so it means I move around a lot.
So let's talk about Audience Town. What was the reason for starting it? What were the indicators that there was something like this missing in real estate?
Yeah, it's a fun question to answer because I was at the time working in New York City in, I guess you would call it, big sort of mainstream digital media and advertising technology, working with really big consumer brands and really big media brands, using data about consumers to target them with advertising on the web in real time, and had really seen how data and technology sort of works in marketing at large scale, and thought, hey, it might be really valuable to try to find an industry that, really can't afford these solutions.
Yeah.
I wonder what that could be. There must be a big industry where, I could sort of translate my knowledge and, create something really valuable and make it simple to understand and pay for. The real story is I was walking home, and my wife, who had very recently become a real estate agent for one of the big or biggest brokerage, depending on what year it might have been, called me. I'll never forget it. It was really like a thunderstruck moment. She said, "You'll never guess what we did at our sort of offsite coaching event. We talked all about using data to, target predicted home movers online. Isn't that the kind of stuff that, sort of you do?" They're talking about it. They're training on it. What a fascinating thing. And literally, it was like a thunderstruck moment. It was like the aha, like real estate. Yes, real estate. I went and spoke with her regional manager, who was a terrific guy. And he said, yeah, like we'd love to do these things that, you do in New York for the big brands, but it's too expensive. It's too complicated. We've RFP'd various marketing technology companies. We've tried to do some ourselves. It's too complicated. It's too expensive. So we're just going to go back to doing what we've always done, which is, use Google and search terms and, do the best we can with that. And that's how the business really got inspired. And I think I thought about it for a couple of years and started talking about it with colleagues and friends and potential clients, and had enough conviction that we could build something really unique that other industries were doing, and do it just for real estate. So that's how we started. And I think maybe 2 years after that, left corporate America and started the company with some longtime industry friends.
That's awesome. It's funny how you just have those light bulb moments and everything.
Totally.
You've been thinking, you got all these thoughts in your head, and then boom.
So it's just like literally, I know exactly where I was. It was just like on the sidewalk, and it was literally like boom, and here I am, 6 or 8 years later from that.
Yeah. So who exactly is Audience Town for? Is it for those solo agents? Is it for investors? Who is it positioned for? Is it all of the above?
Yeah, good question. And maybe a little bit, I'll give you the long version because it's fun. So
Yeah.
I really learned a lot about real estate from the agent community, really through my wife to start, just didn't know that much about real estate or real estate marketing. real estate brands weren't very active advertisers or marketing brands on Madison Avenue. We just saw a lot of ads during the Super Bowl for homes and apartments, and I think maybe Zillow did some advertising, but that was rare. So I learned a lot about it from the agent community, and that kind of validated my thesis. Um, but what we found was very quickly that the segments within the residential real estate industry that gravitated to our products right away were the home builders first.
Hmm.
And I think the reason was because they were much more centralized and still are to a great degree when it came to sort of choosing marketing vendors and picking
Yeah.
technologies. So they've always been an early adopter of our platform. So, and to this day are still really our largest segment of customer. Over the years, we've worked on and off with brokerages and teams to varying degrees of success, depending on how sort of technology forward they are. We've never, or I would say we haven't nailed the individual agent, sort of customer need yet. That will come probably with more time, so that we can build the product in a way that can actually, perform at smaller, more local
Yeah.
scale. So to this day, it's still been home builders. Multifamily companies are able to use our platform. They're a little bit more centralized. And then there are brokerages that tend to be either discount brokerages or, maybe like some of the more like W-2 employee brokerages that kind of like make decisions at the corporate or enterprise level and then maybe hand it off to their agents rather than agents, like choosing their own technology stack, so to speak.
Is there room for a solo agent to use Audience Town, or is it kind of
There
like,
is.
yeah?
No, there absolutely is. We have a free version of our product. You can get it right from audiencetown.com.
I actually
And
I actually signed up yesterday.
yes, I think I saw that. I think that came through our our platform. I saw it.
Awesome.
So there's a very simple free version that anybody can use. We actually have a lot of agents who use that, especially agents that have maybe a bigger website presence or a lot of property pages. They can just put it right on their website and get some really good, basic, unique insights that they might not get from just using Google Analytics. So that's the product we offer today to agents. And then, beyond the free version come, paid subscription versions that are typically for maybe bigger teams or even enterprises. But we have a lot of agents who use that free version just to kind of learn something new, do it for free. There's no integration work, and it gives them just a little bit of an extra edge in the market.
Yeah. So let's talk about how would an agent use the information that they get from Audience Town? What are some of the use cases?
Yeah, it's a marketing analytics platform designed just for real estate. Typically, it would be used alongside or in replacement of something like Google Analytics, which would give you, basic information about who's visiting your community website or your property website. Um, you can put tags on your websites. You can even upload your CRM to the platform, and then it can do two main things. One, just provide you a rich amount of information about your traffic or your prospects, which could be, their incomes, their demographics, whether they're owners or renters today, the size of their home today, their interests, just a lot of information about them.
Yeah.
That's one, and that's sometimes just invaluable. It really is taking sort of anonymous website traffic or anonymous lists of emails and telling you about those segments of people that you didn't know about, and that begins the sort of ideation usually for an agent or even a large company is, hey, a lot of my traffic isn't even in market to buy a house. A lot of my traffic is actually older than I thought, younger than I thought, renters. There's all kinds of fascinating things you can do
Yeah.
once you kind of know what you didn't know before. Just think of it like the iceberg, like all you knew was the tip, and now you know
Yeah.
everything beneath the waterline and the things you can do with it. My favorite example is one where we had a sort of a large team find out that something like 60% of their website traffic had like one or two dogs, and they started promoting all of their like dog showers in their buildings, like on their homepage. Like that's a simple example.
Yeah.
Um, And then the second extremely powerful thing you can do is start to attribute your traffic, your prospects, your activity on your websites and your CRM or even from your search advertising to the channels that actually drive leads, and then which ones actually drive home sales.
Hmm.
This is where the true like magic starts to happen. And this is, more of our paid version. It's still not very expensive relative to the value, I believe. But you can start to say, hey, you can start to see things like, hey, like 30% of the people on my website who I thought were being driven by a listing site were actually on my website before before they ever went to Zillow. So we find things like that. So now suddenly you're like, wow, a lot of the leads I thought were coming from this portal were not. I already knew that person.
Right.
That's amazing. And then when you actually sell a property, you can trace back a year or more that sort of path to purchase. And then you can attribute a home sale all the way back to that person's visitation. And when we've done some pilots on this, you can start to see amazing things sort of that you couldn't see before below the waterline, which is like people are oftentimes consumers buying homes are typically looking at a property or a community website for 8 to 12 months before they even fill out a form. So today, using like a Google Analytics, you just say like, oh, I got traffic, I got 100 visitors.
Yeah.
Using something like Audience Down, you could be like, oh my gosh, 40 of these people have been on my website 5 times this month, and they've been looking at this website or this community or this house for 8 months.
Wow.
So they haven't filled out a form yet, but you can be like, oh my gosh. And then when they do buy a house, you can say, that person was on my website a year ago, which is what we find a lot of the times. They were on my website before they ever even went to Zillow. Or the other fascinating thing, people look at a house, they find the house that they want somehow, usually through search or social. Then they go to like a portal, and then they fill out the form on Zillow.
Yeah.
Or Realtor. For whatever reason, people are more comfortable. Maybe they trust that channel. And then a real estate agent, broker, a team, or an enterprise will say, the listing site did it.
Right.
Not really. Like it was already sort of interest. People found it on their own through content or organic means. So these are the kinds of things you can do with analytics that are really mind blowing. There's a lot of powerful technology behind the scenes doing that, but we try to make it super simple to use. This is not a product for a professional analyst or,
Right.
digital media expert. Like it's for, it's for you and me to use. And we try to make it as simple as possible. So those are all the things you can start to do with like, technology,
That's cool.
without overcomplicating things. Yeah.
So just to clarify, because I'm I don't want people to get confused. Would someone be able to essentially capture a lead without that person signing up, or you would just know how would you know that they started a year ago on the site?
Yeah. You wouldn't know it's a good question. You wouldn't, if someone just comes to your website, you wouldn't know that it's Paulo. However, when someone fills out a form and tells you that they're Paulo, then you could say, oh my gosh, you Paulo were on my website 8 months ago.
Okay.
It kind of like shines the light on your previous activity.
Yeah.
And then you could say, oh, Paulo, so glad to finally hear from you. I know you don't want to get too, but
Yeah.
you'd say, hey, I know you could get a report that would say, hey, this person's actually been on this website for a year. That's a very different,
Yeah.
lead generation attribute than just, hey, this is a not qualified bot coming in named Paulo.
Yeah.
So it starts to become way more maybe personalized, which is, a topic for a lot of marketing teams everywhere.
But then the cool thing is you would be able to see, you wouldn't know that it was me, but you would know things about me and my profile of
Yeah,
that you had a visitor on your site looking at X listing and they live here, they have these interests or whatnot.
that's right. You can get,
Yeah.
a lot of cohort analytics that would say, hey, these 100 people visiting your community page, today, earn this amount of money, have this number of kids, live in a house this large, have this much left on their mortgage, are predicted to move in 6 months or 12 months, or have already moved and are not even really, qualified to
Yeah.
move again. Pets they own, types of pets, cats or dogs, um, owners, renters, number of bedrooms they rent, a lot of things. You might not know that it's, you know, Sally or Bob, but you know a lot about the people who are interested in your community or your house.
Yeah, I can already feel a bunch of things turning in my head of how you would use that info. So let's kind of talk about where you see things with marketing and real estate. I mean, in general, but also kind of tying back to Audience Town.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll the theoretical answer is one you've probably heard before, which is just being more consumer first, or
Yeah.
customer focused. I've heard some of your other um, guests talk about that. That is true. But what does that really mean? Is hard to pin down. Um, I think it means that whoever is sort of um, I think it means that who's going to be the first one to kind of touch that buyer, that home buyer or seller or renter. Um, as buyers and renters become younger generationally, they'll be more sort of digital first. And how do you sort of be the first impression in their lives
Hmm.
as they experience life events that might trigger a move? And so I think being really early in that process is important, and that's one dimension of customer first for me. In marketing language, that means maybe branding or top of the funnel marketing. Um, our data is very clear. People are looking at houses and housing websites and community websites for a year. It's a very long process. And so to be customer first or consumer first means, trying to be like the first one in front of them. And I do think there's going to be a lot of new entrants to trying to be that first
Yeah.
impression. You're going to have mortgage companies. You're going to have new home construction companies who are now 30% of the sales market. When we
Yeah.
started the company, new homes were 12% of the market. It's 30%. It's sometimes 50%. They're offsetting with rates and stuff.
Yeah.
So they're going to try to be out in front. You have the NAR settlement, and then you have the lead gen regulation also, all hitting at the same time. So there's like almost, and then AI. So you have like too much happening at once. But ultimately, I think it'll come down to who's going to be first to that customer, and then just providing a great experience, whether it's digital with video tours or whether it's human in person and walking them through homes of all types and types and sizes.
Yeah, and that's something that really excites me about Audience Town. It's just, and I say this a lot, that these days agents kind of they need to know that someone's ready to transact before that person is ready to before that person knows they're ready to transact, right? So it's
Yeah,
using all of this data to get yourself in front of someone because, as you said, people are looking for homes when they're not even ready to buy.
absolutely.
They're perusing. um you mentioned the NAR settlement and some other things there. Where do you see the future of real estate in general? Do you see things changing, or do you think it's just going to keep going along the same, and it's the marketing that needs to change? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think so much will change. It'll happen. A lot will change at a slower pace than we think. Um, I do think for marketing it means a few things in real estate. I think it means um, there will be a like way more digital experience for home buyers, and we've seen this in other industries already. I think part of what I um, I'm observing happening with this NAR settlement is what you can observe happened in other industries already, whether it's travel, media, retail, finance. There were large numbers of human workers. Something happens in regulation or technology. There are fewer providing a better experience to customers ultimately. And I think that's a fairly consistent observation from people on your show. There will be fewer agents. They will still be very empowered and very service oriented. They might not make, 5%, maybe it's less, but they'll do bigger volume and customers will still have an option in the market. So what does that mean for marketing? Well, it means that just like other industries, the agents will be more tech enabled. um, I think a good question that some of your guests have brought up is like, but like, where's the technology going to come from? You know, are they going to be
Yeah.
choosing their own technology, or is the technology going to be provided to them like at a typical company? When you work for a company and they say your CRM that we use is HubSpot or we use Salesforce, like this is what you use, it's vetted, it's customized, use it. I think they'll be getting probably more tools like that. You know, we'd love for some of those tools to be Audience Town, for example, and then, you know, they don't have to worry about picking, choosing, vetting technology, and they can just provide a great consumer experience. But they're probably going to have to do, you know, twice the transactions to make the same amount of money. But they will be able to. So I think that'll happen. I think AI will be. I just came from a big marketing conference, and AI is sort of in consumer marketing world. It's most often getting applied towards, believe it or not, creative and design more than anything. So I think
Mhm.
that'll be really great for real estate when you can actually have, you know, let's say you have 100 listings or something. You know, you can really personalize the house, the room, the video, all using AI, and that
Yeah.
should be really simple and automated. So I think AI will really help real estate, and I think we'll see a lot more of that in the future.
So, what are some things that agents can do now to kind of up their marketing and with all the things you're seeing? What are some like direct tips that you would give agents?
Yeah, I think that the ones you've heard before are really true. Like I think that there is probably some um, there's probably going to be a it's hard to say exactly, but there will be the effectiveness of just like advertising is going to start to change. There's various data privacy regulations happening that could change how effective just like paid ads are or digital ads are.
Yeah,
And so, you know, the organic content, AI content that is personalized to who they think could be their customer, and just thinking in terms of like longer term cycles, like a year, and sort of nurturing that through what might be called drips and so on. You know, there are really cool tools like ours that are free to use, and there's a lot out there that can really, I think, improve how they are sort of like communicating with potential customers. But I think trying to be first to that home buyer or that listing is just going to be key. And to do that, you're going to need good content, probably some good data to signal to you who's actually going to move in the future, and not just wait for a lead to come in. It's been the industry I found is interesting in that it has one of the largest numbers of leads generated every year
hmm
compared to every other industry. An insider at one of the big companies told me that there's actually 150 real estate leads generated every year. 150 million. 150 million.
I've
Now,
heard
this is coming
more. So
from,
that's yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This was from one of the former executives at one of the big lead gen companies. So there's 150 million. And also they have, and the conversion rate is like 1%.
Yeah.
So there's not a lead gen problem. There's a demand gen problem. And to me, that is how can agents maybe just try to figure out how to talk to people as they're experiencing life events, try to use some basic tools to understand it, either from the brokerage or, you know, free tools like ours and others. Even CRM have pretty good predictive tools, and just trying to get to those people, consumers, early and be the first one. There will be competition, I think, from mortgage companies who are going to start to try to be the first touch of that
Yeah.
consumer. Hey, thinking about moving? Why not pre-apply? And then maybe the mortgage company is the one who kind of gets the consumer in their grip and in their funnel, and is like, hey, you know, we'll sort of help you lead the transaction. You don't need agents anymore. Now you have a mortgage and there's a house, and you know Zillow has a super app. So I think those are some of the risks, without using some of these new
Yeah.
softwares that agents will face. So try to be first, try to be early. Don't let one of the other companies or categories step in and sort of steal that home buyer.
So just a fun question before we wrap up. What have there been, or and if there has been, any surprising data points that you guys have found in terms of who's buying or selling, and all of the research and the data you have there been any really interesting things you wouldn't expect?
Well, the two biggest interesting things. One is a little bit more macro, but it's that um, there's actually kind of like two housing markets. You know, there's the sort of market rate market, which are people who, you know, need mortgages, which are very expensive,
Yeah.
therefore are having a hard time finding a house that they can afford where they want to live because of the lack of supply. And that's a really, and they tend to be younger, right? So that's like the one market. That's the market that you read about in the headlines. It's hard to move. I can't find a house I like. I can't afford it. Rates are
Yeah.
preventing me from moving. And then you have the sort of more upscale market. And these are people who are either just affluent, and affluent people living in homes over $1 million, usually around 3 million. They're twice as likely to actually transact on a house, and it's usually a second home. Or they're just people who have a lot of home equity who skew older and are just sitting on the house that they own. I think 42% of homeowners actually own their house outright. Their houses are appreciating a lot. They're just like not moving. And if they do
Yeah.
decide to move from, New Jersey to Florida, like I did, they just sell for all cash to one of these other people, and then they buy for all cash,
Yeah.
And so there's just this like cash market of older, wealthier, equitized people, and they're sort of more mobile. And then the younger, newer people can't move. And so it's really two markets, because the headlines assume that it's all one market. It's hard to get a mortgage, but if you're older, wealthy, you have home market, it doesn't matter to you. So that's the one big insight we found. And that comes from just looking at a lot of our data about who's actually moving. And we can see that people who own $1 million to $3 million homes are just moving at a far more likely pace. Two, the second, yeah, question. Do you have a question about that?
No, I was just going to say I was going to reference that article, and then I realized I saw it because you posted it.
Oh, nice.
The
Love
people
it.
being, the $3 million market. Yeah.
There it is. There's your content at work right
Yeah.
there. Yeah. And then you signed up for our free product. Look at
Yeah.
this. This is the funnel. This is the funnel at work. The second thing I mentioned already, which is just where leads actually come from and where home sales actually come from. They're not usually coming from the marketing channels that you think, where a lot of the money is going.
Yeah.
I think, a lot of this stuff I can't share publicly because it's basically private client information. We're trying to figure out ways to sort of productize this and make it more public, but it turns everything on its head, when it comes to like where leads actually come from. And then of those leads, who actually buys a home and how long does it actually take? And it challenges most of the assumptions in the industry. So, we're trying to figure out how to disclose that, but, and how to make that work. But I think it would really change, and I think it would make marketing just a lot more effective. If an agent or an enterprise knows, that like what actually works, you could actually spend a lot less money on marketing, and you can actually, take all those leads that most of them are just, not qualified or not real, find the ones that are really qualified and really engaged and really just focus all your efforts on them.
Yeah.
That would be a real game changer. So we're trying to figure out ways to kind of be able to turn those into products and a platform that anybody can use, including an agent, for, maybe just, a small amount of money every month, licensing our platform.
Yeah, I think the future is very exciting for real estate with companies like yours kind of leading the charge. Great chat. Where can people find more information on you on Audience Town?
Yeah, I'd love for people to visit our website, audiencetown.com. There's information and videos there. You can get a demo of the platform. You can sign up for the free right there. We have some really good content on some of the topics I mentioned. And you can find me on LinkedIn, where I'm always posting insights, ideas, for anyone to connect with me there.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again, man.
Thanks, Paolo.